So today is our fishing class slash retreat for beginners. So we're going to start out here telling you the parts of the fishing pole. And again, this is beginners. If you're a master expert fisherman, go to some other YouTube. I don't want to hear negative comments. This is for real beginners to kind of help get them started. And we're going to do some fishing as well out in the lake I built on the property here. So, fishing pole. So let's start with the basic parts of the fishing pole. Of course, this part here, this long part here is the rod. And the rod has what's called these little loops. They're called eyes, or line guides, I think is the other name. And the fishing line goes up through the eyes, these little loops. It helps to keep the fishing line from tangling up and keep it, in line. And then let's talk about the reel. This is a reel. There's different kinds of reels. I believe this is called, I think it's called a spinning reel, but it's a reel, and the parts of that where it connects to the pole, you see it's like this little metal thing, it slips underneath this piece here. This metal piece on the reel, it's called a foot, okay? And then you've got the this little handle here where you wind it. I usually hold the pole with my right hand because I'm right-handed, and I reel with my left. So yeah, that is set up for a right-handed person. You have this little metal piece. This is called a bail. It's set now such that as you reel, it's gonna nicely wrap the fishing line around this part, which is called the spool, okay? When you need to cast and you need the line to be, loose so you can cast your hook out, which usually we're going to put a weight on this, give a little weight. And when you cast it out, you've got to flip this bail open. And then when you turn your handle, it'll flip back this way. When you start reeling in, this bail will help the line spool nicely, wind nicely around the spool. I think the top part here, sometimes it's different on different reels. I'm thinking on the top part here is you can set the drag. That's how stiff it is when you try to wind the tension on the reel. If it's set real loose, then a nice sized fish can actually pull and it'll unspool the line. If it's set to drag real tight, even when a fish is on your hook and it's swimming away, it can't pull that line. And reason for that, sometimes you want the fish to just be on the line and your drag to be kind of loose where it can keep swimming away from you and tiring itself out. And you just do what we call play the fish. You kind of reel in a little bit and then let it pull with sort of a semi-loose drag, and it's pulling against the tension, but it's not where it's so tight where the hook's gonna rip out of its mouth. There are different kinds of fishing pole. This is one kind of fishing pole, as I explained, that has the line guides for the eyes, and a reel, fishing reel. There are different kinds of poles. There's one pole that's called we call it a cane pole. It's a long bamboo stick, and you just tie the fishing line to the end of it and a hook on it, and you don't cast out. You just drop the whole tip of the pole into the water. That's one way to fish, and it's probably a lot more economical. And then when we were kids and just fishing in a slough or a stream or something like that, you could take those and just dip the hook that's tied to the end of the cane pole in the water. But that's not what we're going to use today. Okay, so let me explain fishing line. There are different types of fishing line. The main type of fishing line that I use is called monofilament. It's like one strand. And The strength of the monofilament, as well as other types of fishing line, comes in different strengths of line. It's called, let's say for example, if this was like 5-pound test, what that means is in a controlled like lab environment or whatever, the tension it takes to break this is 5 pounds of force to snap this line. It doesn't mean you can't catch a fish bigger than 5 pounds on this.
Yeah.
It just means if that fish puts, as you're pulling on your line, puts greater than 5 pounds of pressure when it's swimming and flipping, that it would snap this. So the higher the pound, say like we had a 30-pound test, that would be much stronger than a 5-pound test. Now, what this is, I've had these line on these poles for some time, so I can't tell you. I can guess this is probably maybe I don't know, maybe 5 pounds. Now, there's another kind of line I use other than monofilament too. I use what's called braided line. A braided line, even if it's 5-pound test, it's going to be stronger than a monofilament single strand line, just because of the nature of it. The advantage of the braided is a 5-pound test is stronger and can hold more weight, more tension, and more force, and endure more force than a 5-pound monofilament. But the disadvantage is there's not much elasticity in this line. So if a fish gets on there and kind of, it's like wiggling and flapping, it might pull the hook out maybe more easily because it's not as much stretch. This is more stiff, more rigid. This monofilament, it has more elasticity, so it's got some give, and as the fish is pulling against it and you get excited and you're pulling on the pole, it's gonna stretch a little bit. It's not so stiff. There are lots of different kinds of hooks, different brands. These are some hooks. I think I ordered these online, and they're not, super expert professional, but I got a bunch of them. And you got some high-end hooks. One of the things that I think makes a difference is what they're made out of, and how they're fashioned, the shape, the size. Some hooks, they're super sharp, which means they're going to pierce the roof of that fish easily. Usually when you're fishing, they have something called setting the hook. When you feel that fish bite, you can give it a little jerk on your rod so the hook sets, so the point sinks into the fish's mouth and you've got them hooked. I got a lot of these for, they were economical, and it's just a hook. There's no, I think it's called a leader, like this one. This one comes with a little bit of fishing line and a loop on the end already. And to tie this onto the fishing line, you've got the end of the fishing line on your rod. You tie it through that loop. For these, you can tie the end of your fishing line directly into the little loop or eye at the end of this hook. You see there's a little hole there, just like a sewing needle or something. You'd fish your line through there and then tie it. Kind of like you see on this braided line. We took the line and looped it through the eye or the little hole on this, and you got right there. So I'm going to show you one knot that my older brother, he was a fishing pro, taught me years ago that you can use to tie hooks on, whether you tie them through the loop on the end of this little piece of line that's already on the hook, or whether you're tying your fishing line directly to the loop. So we'll demonstrate that with a piece of something. All right, so we're going to teach you a knot that my older brother, who was a professional, pro, expert fisherman, showed me many years ago, and this is kind of my go-to knot for tying hooks on fishing line. Let's imagine we have a hook with a little bit of fishing line already attached. You can bind this way, or even if you have a hook that just has a little eye or a little loop in it. Let's imagine that this green piece of wire, that this big loop is the same as this little loop. We're using the green wire so you can see the knot better. So my assistant here, my hand model, she's gonna imagine that the white little ribbon is the fishing line, and this is the little hole in this hook, tied to this hook, or even you can use the same knot when you tie directly onto a hook. All right, so you take the fishing line through the little eye, the little loop of the hook, and you bring this back and wrap it a few times around your line, around line, around line. All right, there you go. I think that was about 3 times. Then she's going to bring the end back through the loop in the ribbon or the fishing line and pull it tight. Boom, it cinches down like that. And then if the fish gets on the hook, which is the green wire as we demonstrated as the hook, and if the fish is pulling and you got the fishing rod and you're fishing, that's not just going to do nothing but cinch down. It won't loosen up and come off. The fish literally will either have to break the line or pull so hard that he rips off the hook. But this line will unknot. The knot won't come loose. This is a go-to knot you can use. Hook, not to sink all the way to the bottom. Sometimes you got catfish, they'll eat off the bottom, but sometimes fish, they're swimming around. They're not all the way to the bottom. They're swimming around. So the bobber is a flotation device that allows you to control how far down you want the hook to be, because you want the hook to be where it's like eye level or where they're swimming at, where they can see that bait. Especially we've got live bait, we've got worm, and we'll put them on in a way where they'll be wiggling around. And to us, it's like, yeah, worms. To them, it's like, oh, you put a tasty meal right in front of them, and you set the bobber so it'll be right in front of where they're swimming. Yeah. Okay. When you press down on the top of the bobber, there's a hook, and when you press down, there's a gap where you can slide fishing line underneath it.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And then on the bottom, you got to press the whole thing, and you get a gap. Okay. So what I would do, we're going to start with it being maybe a couple feet down on this. What you'll do, you'll start by pushing the whole thing down where you got that gap, and you hook it onto the fishing line. You see the gap? Then you release, and then it's hooked. And then you got to do the top. Let's see if I can do the top easily. A little more tricky on the top. Hold your hand on the bottom, and then push the top here. These are little, inexpensive, cheap bobbers. I think I got, I don't know how many is it. I think it's about 12 or 15 or something for a few dollars. You gotta almost use your finger now.
Okay.
Yeah, like that. No, you're not using your finger now.
Like that?
Yeah, and then hold the bottom so the metal part is kind of sticky.
Okay.
Yeah. There you, like that. And get it loop. Boom. Oops. It came off. Is there a gap there?
Yes.
Okay. There. That's about a couple feet. And you can slide it up and down. And fishing, you don't just stick in one spot and one method and one bait. You got to experiment and try. Just put a little more weight on this. Just a little weight so that the hook won't just be floating on the top, and that's not what you're trying to do. There are different kinds of weights. This weight, they're real small, and they have different sizes of these. These are we call them shots. And what you do is you put the fishing line in between the little crack there, and then take pliers, or we used to just bite them. But when you're putting fishing line and stuff in the water, so It's kind of dirty, but when we were growing up, we just bite it and then
Yeah.
close it down
And
on the
cut.
fishing line.
Yeah.
But we're gonna do it the right way. We're gonna take some crimps
All right.
and do it the right way.
Yeah.
Yeah. These you just get in here like this, and I'm gonna press it. Whoops. Now I actually close that, but if you crimp the end of it, this end that looks like little fins, that'll open up the crack back. Just put a little, you can use pliers or whatever. Okay. All right, that should be close enough. And we'll put maybe one more of those on. Okay, with these shots, I actually closed this and it wasn't on the line. And so you crimp the back of it and it opens it back up like this. Okay, and then you can go ahead and put it on the line. Yeah, so you gotta open this bill up. And then you gotta swing and release your finger. Release my index finger. See? How we're gonna fish, just maybe tighten out the drag, the flap in this line a little bit, but let it sit out there with the worm hanging off of that flotation device, what we call a bobber, and let it dangle and see, give it a little bit, see if you get a bite. You'll see if, even if they start kind of nibbling at it, you'll see it like dunk down underwater. When they really hit it good, they'll take it under, and you want to give them a little, set the hook. You want to give them a little pull, set that, and once they on that hook good, then you start reeling in. Now, if it's a big fish with this light test line, you can't like drag it in like you're wrestling an alligator. You gotta, especially a light line like this and a small hook like we got on there.
Yeah.
You gotta kind of play them in. You gotta play them in, reel it in, let him go out a little bit and reel him in, and he'll tire out and get him on. If it's a small fish, you can just nice smooth reel it in.
This way.
Yep. Just like that. And those two little shot weights give you enough weight. Be careful, where you can cast. You see, it's just two little shot weights, but that's still on this light line. It's enough where you can, with this light test, you can get pretty, pretty much where you want it after you practice enough. So okay, so let's bring that in. We're gonna put a worm on that.
Gonna take a piece. Okay, take a piece. So how is it?
Good.
Good. It's very fresh, very flavorful. I added baking powder, flour, garlic powder, salt, and pepper.